Hello everyone. Well, what a crazy ride 2024 was, not only in world affairs, particularly the re-election of President Trump to a second term following a millimetres from death assassination attempt and everything else that happened over the past 6 months, but in the meagre existence of yours truly. A lot happened for me in 2024. Long-time viewers might have noticed I haven't made a new video for quite a while. Well, there's a pretty good reason for that, and that's because I lost the house I'd lived in for 5 years back in July this year, and hence my studio space and of course my ability to make YouTube videos. The anecdotal story I'm about to share may not be that shocking to someone who's been trying to secure a rental in the current rental market over the past couple of years or so. When I went full MGTOW back in 2019, just before the scamdemic, I rented a 3-bedroom villa here in Perth with reverse cycle aircon, a little courtyard to sit outside, but most importantly for me, a double garage with a shopper's entry into the kitchen. In this layout, I could use the double garage as a studio space to make my music and YouTube videos, and because I had a shopper's entry, open it up just as another room in the house to walk into. Separate living space, spare room for guests, equipment permanently set up, just switch it on and go. It was perfect. On the day to inspect the place when it was originally advertised, there were a few others viewing, but either way, I got the place. Being a single person didn't seem to make it impossible to find a place to live in 2019, and it was affordable at $250 per week. Over the next 4 years though, as the rent affordability situation deteriorated, my rent went from $250 per week to $275, then from $275 to $315, then finally from $315 to $400 per week for the final year I was there. Subsequently, living by myself with a part-time job paying $400 per week was just becoming so hard. Despite the ridiculous rent increases that were going on during the irrational yet overly authoritarian COVID panic era, the expense of maintaining a live-alone lifestyle was ultimately not the reason I ended up moving out, as I was telling myself it was just easier to keep paying the rent than to pull down all the equipment and go through the whole mammoth task of moving. It turns out that just after I signed up for another year's lease at $400 per week, the owner sold the 4 villas to the WA Housing Authority. Everyone else in the other villas got 60-day notices to be out, but because I'd just signed a new 12-month lease, the Housing Authority couldn't remove me until that time was up. Moving forward, over the next 12 months, the welfare recipients of a particular racial persuasion moved into the now vacant villas. I have to admit that I'm astounded at how people who have to earn a combined household income of less than $26,000 per year to qualify for subsidised housing still manage to own 2 pretty nice vehicles, a late model station wagon and an SUV respectively, and somehow can afford to drink copious amounts of alcohol until 2 a.m. on the front porch 4 nights a week. Fortunately, my bedroom had a solid exterior wall between myself and their porch, so it wasn't so bad. There were the flashing police lights though once a week on average, as the cops either responded to a late night drunken domestic or were there looking for one of the occupants of the house. On a couple of occasions, the search for the occupant of the house involved 4 cop vehicles at once, and on another occasion they were driving up and down the street waiting for said suspect to arrive home. Anyway, that was the villa at the front next to mine. Then the young girl of the same particular racial persuasion, who already had 3 kids by the age of 20, moved into the villa behind me. Curiously, she also drove a really nice car. She did share a common interest with my law enforcement attracted neighbours though, and that common interest was leaving their wheelie bins out on the curb all week, often tipped over on the footpath, something every neighbour loves, of course. The girl over the back also knew that one of the best things she could do in the raising of her young children was to own an aggressive attack dog. Needless to say, said aggressive attack dog needed to spend some time each day out on the back patio adjoining mine to take care of his business and to bark at 120 BPM. That's barks per minute, an average of 2 barks per second for 40 minutes or so each day. Yeah, thanks neighbour. She also had a boyfriend with her there for a while. I don't know if his name was actually, "You motherfucking cunt," but she'd call him that a lot in a somewhat loud aggressive tone, so maybe that was his name, I'm not sure. Anyway, she must have been generally good at making people angry, or at very least terrible at choosing who to be friends with, because one day someone decided to ram a vehicle into her garage door, directly behind the garage door where my studio was. I was home at the time, and it made a sound just like the sound of someone driving a vehicle into a garage door. Okay, so I came to expect another knock at the door from the police to ask me what I saw this time, a scenario which was starting to become a bit too commonplace for my liking. Anyway, it didn't really matter. It was now 3 months until I was going to be evicted for not being a welfare recipient of a particular racial persuasion anyway. I even checked with the housing authority that if I found a suitable place early, I could break the lease and not incur any penalty, and they were okay with that. I went to numerous viewings and submitted numerous applications, and only one property did it look like I was in with a shot. And right at the end there, they gave it to someone else anyway. What you could get for the money had also become virtually impossible. Even that place I really wanted was $450 per week, $50 per week more than I was already struggling with, and further out of town work travel-wise. As I said, it too fell through, so it became somewhat academic anyway. Admittedly, there was one place I probably could have gotten approval for, a shit tip that you wouldn't let your dog live in for $420 per week. I also had to dedicate some time to packing up my studio gear, a massive task to do alone, but which I did over the course of about a week whilst working my day job. By 2 weeks until move day, I still hadn't found anywhere to live. At this point, I was in a pretty desperate situation and probably a lot more stressed out than I was prepared to display to others. I was going to have to find just a room in shared accommodation somewhere, pay for movers, put everything into storage, and of course have to pay ongoing storage fees for my stuff whilst paying for a room somewhere, effectively trapping me in a vicious cycle where I'd be paying the same to live in shared accommodation with just a bed and a wardrobe as I was to have my own 3-bedroom place with an audio-visual studio prior to losing the house. It's at this point that my employer fully came to the rescue with the problem regarding my equipment. He offered to let me store my gear at the work storage facility until I could find a place. He also offered the work truck for free to get me moved. Fucking amazing, and without naming names, thanks so much mate for that assistance. It just saved me so much. Then there was the 2 guys from work that gave up their Sunday off back in July to do the physical move. They took a bit of money I offered as pre-arranged, but when I tried to offer extra on the day, they refused. So a big thanks to those guys for their friendship as well. Okay, so now at least I only had one problem to go. Where the hell was I myself going to be sleeping in 2 weeks' time? Again, I was pretty concerned about that. I have one family member in Perth, and that's my sister, who for the purpose of this video we'll call Sister Orsum. Without getting into too many details, my sister, who's the next born after me, almost 2 years younger, I'm the eldest, sublets 2 rooms of her home to supplement her income as she's now retired. In my desperate situation, I called her and asked if I could even throw an inflatable mattress down at her place somewhere if need be, until I could be sure I had a room somewhere. And almost as if with cherub harp accompaniment, her voice ascended down from heaven with the words, "Perfect timing, one of my boarders just moved out." Thank you, I was saved, I had a room. Pretty much straight after I moved in, I started hinting at my sister about how great it would be to convert the garage from cobwebbed storage of myriad unused things into my new studio so that I could start creating again. And without even trying to extract any extra money from me, we began sorting through everything and prepping the garage. A bit of reorganising here, a couple of trips to the tip there, some amount of planning where everything would go, doing some on some days, doing nothing on others, you know how it rolls, but then doing most of the setup while my sister was away on holiday so that the state of chaos was defeated by the time she got back, etc, etc. Anyway, here we are, just at the cusp of 2025, and I'm all set up and ready to go again. Now, I know by the telling of the story of my life upheaval of 2024, it might not be the most relevant or riveting news story you were hoping for my first return video after a long hiatus, but I really did want to express in some way my love and appreciation for Sister Orsum, who gave over her garage space to her brother so that he could keep producing music and video content. Sister Orsum, you're the best. This video was also an opportunity to say to you guys, hey, sorry I haven't made any funny videos for a while, but here's why. Anyway, I'll get out of here and let you get back to whatever it is you happen to be doing Boxing Day 2024. Thanks for watching, everyone.